Eddie, PT37 here, and today on Reloaded Thoughts, I think I might talk about what I think the Gen 6 Glock might be. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that there's supposedly a Gen 6 Glock in the works. That Glock's discontinuing a lot of models, and they're kind of getting geared up for like a Gen 6. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that today, and whatever else comes to mind. But I was just thinking about that. Like comment below what you guys think the Gen 6 Glock will be. I obviously don't think it's going to be a standout, as none of the others are. I guess the Gen 3 was probably the most revolutionary. But other than that, not a whole lot. So, but what could the Gen 6 be? They could put finger grooves back on it. Who knows? With Glock, you just never know. So I could see the finger grooves. I don't think they're going to, because they got so much praise from people for taking them off in the first place, so I don't see them doing that. I could see them improving the texture a little bit. I think it's pretty good as it is on the Gen 4s and 5s, but I could see them doing something with the grip texture. I definitely see them leaving the mag well, that the Gen 5s have. I could see them. So I seen, it's been probably a year or two ago, they came out with that Glock performance trigger, the factory performance trigger. I think they'll have options with that. I think they will incorporate that in the factory options. So like maybe like the Glock 34 or 17L guns will have that from the factory, or have an option, or they may just have that as like a SKU number on like the Glock 45s and the 19s. I don't know. And as much as it pains me to say it, I wonder if they won't discontinue the 17. There's really not a need for it now. So I could see them just not even coming out with the 17 in a Gen 6 variant. But I think they will for sure all be modular. And Glocks are already somewhat modular, and the Gen 5s have greatly improved on that. But I think they will finally be completely modular, not in the sense that there's a fire control unit. Now there could be. They could come out with a fire control unit like the SIG and the Ruger RXM, and I think Beretta has some guns like that. But I could see them doing that. But if they don't, I think they will make them so modular that like you could take a 19 slide off and stick it on a Glock 26 frame and it would cycle and function just fine. So I could see that. And like I said, they've already got some of that going on now with the Gen 5s. I think you can take a 17 slide off and put it on 19 now and just make your own homemade 49 or whatever model that is. So I could see that, but I've got all these rounds primed up. I want to get some more rounds in here. Okay, I'm just going to get some rounds ready to prime. So I just finished up what I was doing last week on Reloaded Thoughts. Hadn't cut around to finishing that up, but now I'm going to get, I think maybe 10 rounds just to try, 10 or 12. I might do 12. I'm going to prime them up, and I got some 180 grain XTPs for 357 Magnum I'm going to load up and shoot out the lever gun, see how they do. So while I ramble here, I'm just going to be getting these cases ready. Whenever I'm trying to load cases for precision or just to check a load, I really go over the top, and I want to make sure they're the same size, they're the same length, and the same weight and all that. I'm probably not going to weigh these, But Ben's 357 has such a, like with full power loads, a hard crimp is very important. I want to make sure these are all for sure uniform in length compared to one another. So that way I get a good consistent crimp across all of them. So that's what I'm doing here. But anyway, back to Gen 6 Glocks. I talked about the trigger. So I think they're going to do away with the MOS. I think the MOS is gone. I think that is for sure one thing they're going to get rid of. I don't know if they'll have a new modular system or maybe even just new plates. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to just update the plates. I think they're going to update the whole footprint, be my guess. I think they will offer like direct mill slides. They already do that. They don't really advertise it. But if you look at like Primary Arms, I think it is, they have some options with like a factory RMR cut or Delta Point footprint cut. So that's already, I think they've already kind of gave us some hints as to what they're going to do. So I think they're either going to have footprint direct red dot mounts or completely revamp the MOS system, or both. I mean, I could see it being either way, just having both for whatever people want. And what's something else? I don't know. I think the finish is good. I think they're going to stick with the finish, be my guess. That DLC or whatever they call it, their proprietary name for it. It's not the Tenifer finish or whatever they used to call it. It's something else. I think it's like a DLC. I think they'll stick with that because that seems to be a pretty good finish. Now the finish on the barrels, I don't know if it's the same or if the barrels are just tighter fit. I don't know, because my Gen 5 guns, they have quite a bit of wear on the barrels with the significantly less rounds. However, the slides have less wear from holsters. So I don't know, it's like, I don't know if they use two different finishes for the slide and the barrel, or if the barrels are just a little bit more fit to the slide, and the slide just rubs them more than used to. I mean, that would make sense. My Gen 5 guns have been exceptionally accurate. I mean, just as accurate as my revolvers. I go on and on about my revolvers being accurate, but in all reality, my Glocks are just as accurate. I know that's a bold statement, and a lot of people don't agree with it. But, I mean, you'll see when I get to doing my Glock reviews that they're just as accurate. Now, they're not with the iron sights. I mean, I think the gun is mechanically as accurate with the iron sights, but I can't shoot. I had a Glock 45. I shot about a 2 1/4, 2-ish inch group at 25 yards with it with the iron sights, and then I stuck a Trijicon RMR on it. And I shot the gun again. I shot a 1-inch group. I was floored. My whole life, people told me, and on YouTube is like, oh yeah, Glocks, they aren't accurate. They're good self-defense tools, but they're not accurate. And I was like, that's not the case. And my Glock 20, I ain't got it out, but my Glock 20, I shot a 3-inch or sub 3-inch. I think it was a sub 3-inch. I think I talked about it on my 10mm load development video for the 180 XTP. But I think it was a sub 3-inch group at 50 yards. So, like, if a handgun can shoot 1.5 inches or less at 25, I'm thrilled. I think that's probably the standard as to what an accurate handgun should shoot. Now, if it shoots better than that, I'm just very pleased. So for a gun to shoot 3 inches or sub 3 inches at 50 yards, you know, that's doubling the distance, so you're doubling the group size. So if he can shoot 3 inches or better at 50 yards, and I'm ecstatic then. And I was tickled when my Glock 20 did that. That was great. So what else could happen with the Gen 6, Gen 6 Glocks, I think they'll have factory threaded options. They kind of had some runs of them here and there, but I could see them having a factory threaded option also with the footprint, with the trigger, everything. And for sure the front side slide serrations are going to stay. I don't see those going anywhere. I don't think functionally the Glock will be any different. Like, the Gen 5 added some little nuances as far as the parts go. Like, they're still mostly the same, but there's a few things that are different internally. I don't think they're going to change any of that stuff. I don't really see why they would, because they seem to be pretty solid. Another thing I could see is, I mentioned them changing the footprint for the optic mounting system. I could see them, I don't know, I could see it as much as I couldn't. I could see them putting the rear sight in front of the optic, like a lot of big red dot people really hound on. That is where it should be, to less obstruct your view and all that stuff. I could see that. And I don't know, it seemed like there was something else I thought of, but I can't really think of what it was. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Do you guys think they'll do any of that stuff? Do you guys think they'll, just clean slate and do something totally radical and different? I don't know. I could see it going. I don't think they're going to start over. I mean, they're not going to do that. That's just not Glock. They're the iPhone of the gun world. They'll just, change one little feature and call it a whole other generation. It just popped in my mind. Could see him putting a full Picatinny rail in the front. I don't think they will, but I mean, why not? It looks kind of cool. Every other gun company does it. It gives you a little bit more versatility. Not that you really need it, but I think it looks kind of cool. So overall, what do I think? I think they're gonna leave the finger grooves off. I think they're gonna leave the texture the same. I think they're going to have options with the factory trigger, whatever it's called. The performance trigger. And I think they're going to revamp the footprint. I think they'll offer direct footprints, but I think they're going to revamp the MOS system as a whole. And then what else I say? The threaded options. I think they're going to have threaded options from the factory, because right now they really don't have much. It's like Lipsies or Talo exclusives, I think, is their threaded options. And they don't even come with the, short of the 19X model, the other threaded options I've seen just come with the tall sights. They don't come with, they don't even come with an optic mount. So I think that's kind of dumb. Like now that I've got into suppressors and stuff, I want to get a, well, I guess I already got one, but I'd like to get a Glock that has an optic and is threaded. I got a Shadow Systems that's threaded with an optic, but I want a Glock like that, like a 17 or 47, 45, one of those, just a full size optic ready suppressor hose, just to dedicate as a suppressor gun. And right now, unless I get the 19X for like $700, I'm not going to do that. And I really don't want to pay $700 for an 19X. It's kind of dumb, I think. I really like the gun. It's nice. And they might be cheaper than that. I don't know. I may be misquoting that. But I wish they'd just come out with a regular 19 or 45 or 17 that's threaded, MOS, or optic ready, whatever. So I think that's what they're going to do to Gen 6s. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I know a lot of my audience is probably not Glock fans. However, I try to tell people, if you're a revolver guy, I don't know why you wouldn't like a Glock. Like, I know they're not metal. I know they're not nice to look at. I know they're not hefty, steel. But as far as, so like here's my GP100 here. It's unloaded, but so as far as a manual of arms of a revolver, you just point it, pull the trigger, and it goes bang. You don't have to worry about no safeties. You ain't got to worry about it jamming, per se. They do jam, but that's a different topic. And they're just point and shoot guns. I mean, I don't mean that as like they're not accurate. I just mean that you don't have to mess around with safeties. You ain't got a good grip on it or any of that stuff. They're just, you pull the trigger, they go bang. Glocks are the same way. You pull the trigger, they go bang. I've had a few malfunctions out of my Glock 44, the 22 long rifle model, but that's to be expected. It's a 22. And it's not been much. I've got probably 4,000 rounds through that thing. I've maybe had 10 or so, and it was with a certain kind of ammo, I think. So, and out of my full-size 9mm guns, I don't think I've ever had a malfunction. I had a malfunction with a Glock 34 I had, but I was shooting a coon up out of a tree right above me. So I think I kind of like limp wristed it. Gravity helped me limp wrist it or something. I had a pretty good excuse for that one. I don't think that was the gun's fault. I think it was just a direction I was shooting and all that stuff. But I got a Gen 4 17, never had a malfunction with it. I got a Glock 45, never had a malfunction with it. And I've got probably 12 or 1,500 rounds through the Glock 45. I've got approximately 4,000 through the Gen 4 17. And they're just, I've had more trouble out of this revolver than I have my Glocks. This thing, I've not functionally had any trouble with it, but I had some reloads one time. Now, it was my reloads that caused a problem, but they wouldn't have caused a problem with the Glock. The same issue. But I was practicing some speed loading with this. You know, I'd kick the shells out, and I'd go to reload it. Well, the cylinder wouldn't close. I couldn't get it to close. Well, it turns out I was using old powder, which I knew it was old. But I was using old powder, and it wasn't all burning. So what would happen when I kicked out the rounds, unburnt powder would get under the star, and then the star would protrude just enough to not shut this. So I would have to kick it out, kind of like do that, and then get it to shut. And it was a pain in the butt. And so ever since I've been using 231, like good new 231 powder, I had that issue. But like I said, even with a Glock, now I could have short cycling issues if I was using like same powder analogy like that. But then again, a short cycle is an easy fix. I mean, you just rack slide, jack in a new round. Whereas that, you know, the unburnt powder getting under a star, that's about a showstopper if you're in a defensive scenario. So I don't really know why more guys that like revolvers don't like Glocks, because they're the same manual of arms. And you can make the argument, well, they're not powerful. They're not, you know, they only got 9mm and 40. There's no 357. But they got 10mm ones. I got a 10mm one. I love it. I haven't shot it very much. But man, that thing is a powerhouse. If you watch my 10mm 180 grain XTP video, I'd shoot it into the ballistic gel, and I shoot it over the chronograph, and I got 1,300 feet per second with that. 180 grain load. I mean, that's a 357 power factor all day, if not more so. So that's more than a lot of 180 grain 357 rounds. Now, if you reload, you can get that or better. Or if you buy like Buffalo Bore, you can get that or better. But same with 10mm. That's not the top end. I mean, that's pretty close. You're getting close. But you could push that a little bit more if you want to. I don't want to out of that gun. But even the 45s, so I got a Glock 21 too, and I need to chronograph the loads, but I got one right here actually. I got some 250 grain round nose flat point, I think it is. They're from Rimrock, so it's a 250 grain bullet. Now, I've shot these out of my M&P 45, and I was using book published data. Now, my overall length was a little bit shorter than the data with this bullet, But it sounds stupid. I was using accurate number 9 powder, which I already thought was kind of dumb for 45 ECP, but it's what I had on hand and gave good velocity in my Lee manual. So with the max charge, I was getting 10, I think it was 1050 feet per second out of my M&P 45. I mean, that's Buffalo Bore runs their 255 grain outdoorsman load at 925, and that's a plus P. So I was well into like very low end 45 super territory. So I backed off that load. I don't shoot that, but I wanted to see if the gun would do it. And you can do that with the Glock 21 too. I haven't chronographed these loads out of the Glock 21. I backed off, so these are like right at 1,000 feet per second. So they're still a little bit more than the Buffalo Bore plus P loads, but the primers look great on them. The gun cycles them fine. I've shot, so I don't recommend you doing that. If you do, you probably need a heavier recoil spring. But my use for these loads is that I just wanted to function check them, shoot magazine out of it, and then I'm just going to carry this when I go out in the woods if I don't want to carry a revolver. So this, like I said in other videos where I live, a 357 will really do everything I need it to do, and I can say the same with the 250 grain 45 ACP. So you can get the Glock 21 and shoot plus P rounds out of it at 45, have plenty of power, more power than you're probably ever going to need for most things, sort of like a big grizzly bear or something like that. Or I don't know why more people that like powerful revolvers don't like Glocks. I mean, I get that they're not steel and they're not really much to look at and all that stuff, but they're just very useful. Like I don't really want to ding around my revolvers, but a Glock, I don't care to ding that thing around. Who cares if I'm trudging through the woods and banging on a few trees or something? Who cares? It's a Glock. But if I have like my Python here, you know, when I'm bebopping through the woods, I don't want to be banging this on stuff. It's so nice. And what good is a gun that you don't want to use? I'm not saying I wouldn't use this, but if I think I want to be crawling in the woods or banging up against a bunch of brush or walking through a bunch of brush, stuff like that, I probably don't want to carry this thing because I don't want to mar it up. Whereas a Glock, I don't care if I'm crawling on the ground or crawling under fences and walking through thorn bushes trying to find a deer or something. I don't really care if I ding up a Glock in that aspect. So, but anyway, well, I didn't know if this talk would be just about Glocks or whatever else, but it turned into just a Glock conversation. So, hope you liked it. If not, I guess tune in next week. Maybe we'll talk about something you like a little bit better. So I've accomplished my goal, and I feel like I've rambled for a while, so I'm going to call it good on this. And if you like this, please like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next week for another one.